Hello and welcome to one and all. In today's video, I am uploading the next answer, next LAQ, that is the Law of Equi-Marginal Utility. Okay, so the question is, discuss the consumer's equilibrium with the help of Law of Equi-Marginal Utility. So in my previous answer, Law of Diminishing Marginal Utility, I already mentioned what should be the format of an answer. So the first, it should be the introduction, and then there should be the statement of the law, definition, and then you have to explain with the help of a table, and if there is a diagram you have to explain the diagram also, and whatever it is, assumptions, limitations or importance according to the question. Okay, so in this case the question is, discuss the consumer's equilibrium with the help of Law of Equi-Marginal Utility. Okay, so the first introduction is the same introduction I mentioned in the previous class itself. Both the Law of Diminishing Marginal Utility as well as the Law of Equi-Marginal Utility, both these laws were first introduced by H.H. Gosson, and later it was popularized by Marshall. So you can give the same introduction. So what is the introduction? H.H. Gosson was the first person to introduce the laws of diminishing and equi-marginal utilities in 1854. Later it was popularized by Marshall in 1890. So the same introduction. And moving to the statement of the law. So what the law states, so the main difference between the Law of Diminishing Marginal Utility and Law of Equi-Marginal Utility is, Law of Diminishing Marginal Utility is dealing with only one commodity. When the consumer consumes one particular commodity, how his satisfaction keeps on changing as he keeps on increasing his consumption. So in the previous video in Law of Diminishing Marginal Utility, I have taken the example of mangoes, and then we have checked how the total utility keeps on increasing at a decreasing rate, and finally it starts decreasing, and the marginal utility continuously decreases and becomes negative. So only one commodity we have taken as example. But in the actual practice, the consumer is not consuming only one particular commodity. He is consuming different varieties of commodities, different varieties of services, and the problem is his money income is constant, isn't it? So under those circumstances, how the consumer can attain the maximum satisfaction and the equilibrium position. So that is what is being explained through the Law of Equi-Marginal Utility. So the law states that if the consumer spends his money income on different commodities, so when the last rupee spent on commodity A gives him the same marginal utility that of the last rupee spent on commodity B. Okay, so the last rupee spent on each and every commodity, let him buy innumerable amounts of varieties of commodities, X, Y, Z, A to N, any number of commodities, let him buy. But if he buys all those commodities, how much he is spending on commodity A? So the last rupee spent on commodity A should give him the same marginal utility to the last rupee spent on commodity B, last rupee spent on commodity C, the last rupee spent on commodity D, etc. etc. Okay, so that should give him the same marginal utility. Then the consumer will be in the equilibrium position. So that is what is being explained in Law of Equi-Marginal Utility. That is why the name Equi-Marginal Utility. That means what? The marginal utilities should be equal. So the last rupee of commodity A should give him the same marginal utility of last rupee spent on commodity B, etc. Okay, so this is the statement of the law. So the Law of Equi-Marginal Utility states that if a consumer spends his limited money income to purchase different commodities, he will get maximum satisfaction when the last rupee spent on different commodities gives him same marginal utility. Okay, so this is the statement of the law. So there is some condition, some formula for the consumer to attain the equilibrium position. So that is, what is the condition? The fundamental condition for consumer's equilibrium and to get maximum satisfaction. If the consumer reaches that equilibrium position, that means he has got the maximum satisfaction. Okay, this is the condition or the formula. Mu of x divided by price of x must be equal to mu of y divided by price of y. that must be equal to mu of z divided by price of z. Actually innumerable varieties of commodities mu of n. So that must be equal to mu of m. Okay, now what is mu of x? Mu of x is marginal utility of commodity x. Mu of y is marginal utility of commodity y. Mu of z is marginal utility of commodity z. And px is the price of x, py is the price of y, pz is the price of z, and mum is the marginal utility of money, that is its pocket money. For the sake of convenience, we are assuming it as constant. Okay, so if the consumer satisfies this condition, if this ratio is satisfied, then the consumer will be in the equilibrium position. So you have to mention that formula and highlight the formula in the by mentioning it in a box. Okay, as I have mentioned here. Then next, as usual, you have to write the definition. So here I have given the definition by Marshall. So what is it? If a person has a thing which can be put to several uses, he will distribute it among these uses in such a way that it has the same marginal utility in all. So if a person has a thing here refers to money. So if a person has a thing, that is money, which can be put to several uses, that is money can be used to purchase different varieties of commodities. How he has to distribute? He will distribute it among these users. He will spend the money income on different commodities in such a way that it has the same marginal utility in all, in such a way that the last rupee spent on different commodities is giving the same marginal utility to the consumer. Okay, so the statement, this is in Marshall's words. So again I am repeating, the definition should be word by word as it is. You cannot change the definition. So this definition quotation is given by Marshall and you have to write within inverted commas. Okay, now assumptions of the law. Of course, in the law they have, in the question they have not given the assumption, asked the assumption, but still anyway the table, the example is based on the assumptions, so it's better to explain the assumptions also very briefly. So what is the first assumption? Cardinal measurement of utility, that is utility can be measured in cardinal numbers, that is 1, 2, 3, isn't it? Then the second assumption is consumer is rational to get maximum satisfaction and attain equilibrium. Rational in the sense that the consumer always wants to reach the position of equilibrium and reach that maximum satisfaction position. So if the consumer is acting accordingly, then he is considered to be a rational consumer. So we are assuming our consumer is a rational consumer. Third assumption, the marginal utility of money is constant, that is the consumer is not giving any importance to the money income, which is, if he spends his money income, his pocket money is decreasing, isn't it? But he is not giving any importance to that. So according to the example, the marginal utility of money for the consumer is remaining constant. And the fourth assumption, consumer's income is constant and he spends his entire money income on two goods, that is X and Y. So this is for the sake of convenience. For the sake of convenience, we are taking the consumer's money income and the entire money income is spending on commodity X and Y, because anyway we have assumed the marginal utility of money income is remaining constant. Okay, so when he is having any money or when he is not having any money, when he is converting his money income in the form of goods by purchasing the goods also, his satisfaction for money is remaining same. Then the fifth assumption, the prices of the goods are given and constant. And sixth assumption, utilities are independent, that is the utility of commodity X is not depending on utility of commodity Y and utility of commodity Y is not depending on utility of commodity Z, etc. So the utilities are independent. Okay, so now based on these assumptions, let us see how the law can be illustrated. So the next heading is illustration of the law. The law can be explained with the help of a numerical example in the form of a table. Okay, so next let us take an example. You write example. We are assuming consumer's money income to be rupees 20 and this entire 20 rupees is spending on commodity X and commodity Y. So the price of good X, let us assume it as rupees 3. Price of good Y, let us assume it as rupees 4. Okay, so this entire 20 rupees he has to spend on commodity X and commodity Y at their given prices. So first let us take an hypothetical table based on the marginal utilities of commodity X and commodity Y. Okay, this is just an hypothetical example. So first column, what it is representing, units of commodity X and commodity Y. So second column, the marginal utility of commodity X, and the third column, marginal utility of commodity Y. So you can see that first unit of commodity X gives the consumer 33 utils of satisfaction, but the second one, it is giving him 36 utils of satisfaction. Okay, and then the second one, like that the marginal utility keeps on decreasing. So 33, 30, 27, 24 and 21 for commodity X, and the commodity Y, it decreases from 36, 32, 28, 24 and 20. Okay, so we all know that as the consumer keeps on consuming a particular commodity, the marginal utility keeps on decreasing. This we have already found out according to the law of diminishing marginal utility. So based on that, as the consumer keeps on increasing the consumption of commodity X or commodity Y, the satisfaction keeps on decreasing. Okay, but in order, we have to come to find out this ratio, isn't it? Mu of X is divided by price of X must be equal to mu of divided by price of Y. So in order to do that, we should divide the marginal utility of commodity X and commodity Y with their respective prices. Then only we will be able to find out the equilibrium position. So that's what. But to find out the consumer's equilibrium position, the marginal utilities of X and Y have to be divided by their respective prices. So that leads us to the second table, that is marginal utility of expenditure. So same units for first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and mu of X divided by price of X, that is the second column. So we already know the marginal utility of commodity X for first unit is 33. So we have assumed the price of X to be 3, isn't it? So 33 divided by 3, we are getting 11. The second unit, the marginal utility decreases to 30. So if you want, you can check, say 33, 30, 27, 24, 21, isn't it? So you keep on dividing it. So 33 divided by 3 is equal to 11. 30 divided by 3 is equal to 10. 27 divided by 3, 9. And then 24 divided by 3, we are getting 8. And 21 divided by 3, we are getting 7. So this is for commodity X. Similarly, for commodity Y, third column, mu of Y divided by P of Y. So the marginal utility of commodity Y for the first unit is 36. So we have assumed the price of Y to be 4, isn't it? See here. So we already assume price of good as rupees 3 and price of good Y as rupees 4. So now we are dividing it. 36 divided by 4, 9. 32 divided by 4, we are getting 8. And 28 divided by 4, 7. 24 divided by 4, 6. And then 20 divided by 4, we are getting 5. Okay. So we have arrived at the ratio also. Okay. Now what are all the conditions for the consumer to be equilibrium? Apart from the ratio, there are two more conditions for the consumer to be in equilibrium. So the first condition, mu of X divided by P of X must be equal to mu of Y divided by P of Y, because we have taken only two commodities here, commodity X and commodity Y. So in this case, only two commodities. So that is the first condition, that ratio has to be equal. The second one is income must be equal to expenditure. That means we have assumed, isn't it, the consumer spends his entire money income on two goods. So income, we have assumed it as rupees 20. You can check here. So we already assumed the consumer's money income as rupees 20. So this entire 20 rupees is spending on commodity X and Y. So income 20 rupees must be equal to expenditure 20 rupees. And then the third assumption is maximum satisfaction. That is, the combination should, the total utility should be maximum at that combination. So these are the three conditions. So now we can see that from the above table, it is clear that when the consumer purchases 4 units of commodity X. So when the consumer purchases 4 units of commodity X, the mu of X, P of X is equal to 8. And when the consumer spends 2 units on commodity Y, mu of Y divided by price of Y that is also equal to 8. So that is what mu of X by P of X is also 8. Mu of Y divided by P of Y is also equal to 8. So at this point, if you want to see mu of X divided by price of x is equal to 8. So that must be equal to mu of divided by price of y, that is also equal to 8. Okay. So only when the consumer spends, that means what, 4 units of x. The consumer is spending, purchasing 4 units of x and 2 units of y. So the consumer is purchasing 2 units of y. So in this case, the last rupee spent on commodity x is equal, also giving the same margin utility as the last rupee spent on commodity y. So the first condition is satisfied. Now what is the second condition? Income must be equal to expenditure. So when the consumer purchases 4 units of commodity x, so then how much is spending? So 4 into 3, isn't it? Price of commodity x is 3, so he is spending 12 rupees on commodity x, and he is spending commodity, this is for commodity x. Okay, and when he spends 2 rupees, so what is the price of commodity y? 4. So when he spends 4, that is when he purchases 2 units of commodity y, so his total expenditure is equal to 8, so 20, isn't it? So this is equal to his income. So we have assumed income also happens to be 20. So his money income is equal to, this is expenditure, that is equal to his income. We have assumed his money income to be 20, isn't it? We have already assumed the money income to be 20. Okay, so this is what it is. So the second assumption is income is equal to expenditure, and the third assumption is maximum satisfaction. So that is the total utility only at this combination, that is 4 units of commodity x and 2 units of commodity y. Only that combination gives the consumer the maximum total utility. Okay, so that's what it is mentioned. So from the above table, it is clear that when the consumer purchases 4 units of x, so what happens? Mu of x divided by price of x, that is equal to 24 divided by 3 is equal to 8, and 2 units of commodity y, mu of y divided by p of y, that is 2 units give him 32 utils of margin utility, divided by price of y, that is 4 rupees is equal to 8. He will be in equilibrium position, getting maximum satisfaction, as his total utility will be maximum only at this combination. So that means what? You can add all this 4 units of 33 plus 30 plus 27 plus 24, that is 4 units of commodity x plus 36 plus 32, 2 units of commodity y. So if you add all this, his total utility is maximum to 182. You can check, no other combination will give him that much amount of maximum total utility. Okay, so that's why he is getting the maximum satisfaction, as his total utility will be maximum only at this combination, and his income will also be equal to his expenditure. Thus the consumer attains the equilibrium position. So all the 3 conditions are satisfied. Mu of x divided by price of x is equal to mu of y divided by price of y. His income is also equal to expenditure. 20 rupees income, 20 rupees is spending, and maximum satisfaction, that is the total utility will be maximum. So then the consumer attains the equilibrium position. Okay, so this is the law of equi-marginal utility. So even though in our example we have taken only 2 commodities, in actual practice the consumer can purchase any number of commodities. Still the last rupee spent on each and every commodity, if it gives him the same marginal utility, he will be in the equilibrium position. So this is what the law of equi-marginal utility states. Okay, I hope all of you have understood the answer. So this is the format of the answer. Okay, as usual, introduction, statement of the law, and then as far as this answer is concerned, you have to highlight the formula also, and then the definition, assumptions of the law, because based on this assumption the table is being framed, then illustration of the law, taking the numerical example. Then you have 2 tables, there are no in your syllabus there is no diagram. So first table, the marginal utilities of commodity X and commodity Y, represent that, and then the second table, marginal utility of expenditure by dividing with price of the commodities, and then mention what are all the conditions for equilibrium and explain the table how the consumer attains the equilibrium position. Okay, I hope this answer is clear to all of you. If you have any doubts, please don't fail to mention in the comment box. Okay, so if you find this video useful, please like, share, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you have any suggestions also, please mention it in the comment box. Okay, so until my next class, take care. Bye bye.